Well, good morning and welcome to DMAC's Ask a Professional session. Thank you for being here. My name is Jill Hoyk. I work a part of the work-based learning team here at DMAC and will be your host today. We are so excited to be partnering with Roxy Livermore with Waukee Community School District today to learn a little bit more about her career in human resources. And our hope really with these events are that they're linking your education and your career interests to businesses and professionals right here in Central Iowa. So I just want to thank you, Roxy, for your time today. And Roxy is the executive director of human resources for Waukee Community School District. Huge job that you have. So truly appreciate your time today. And I know we'll learn a little bit more about what your role currently entails too as well. But can you just kind of take us back to the beginning of when did you know human resources was something you wanted to do? Is it something you wanted to do when you were a little girl, or did you come to it later in life? Can you just kind of walk us through how you got to where you are today?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. And it's great being here to talk about this. Cause yes, I wouldn't say in high school, like it was like, let's be in HR, but a lot of people don't know what it is. Right. And if so, they have maybe a bad perception of it when they don't know all what it's about. But I did take some business classes in high school and loved it. And so then went to UNI for general business at the time, where there you had to look at an emphasis. So the more I learned about the different areas, the more I'm like, this human focus one was, I thought, best for me based on what I wanted to do. And so the more I got into it, the more I learned about the different areas of HR, the more I really enjoyed it. So I had to take a path with HR in my education as I got my bachelor's degree. So that was super exciting, and it was great development for me as I found an internship kind of in HR and learned each more when you have those experiences.
Yeah. And one thing about that, I just have a question about when you were going through schooling. Um, when you did that, I know human resources is the general degree, but there's so much that goes into HR, like benefits, the benefits coordinator, the hiring and the firing and that section and so much more. Can you talk about how like schooling is with that? Is there like specific focus areas that you go into, or do you learn kind of about everything within your degree?
Yeah, good question. So a lot of it probably depends on the school you're at, but what I've seen is, yeah, there can be the different degrees kind of have the different classes, and each different classes can have different focuses or another one. So yeah, starting out, it was like, here's your generic learn about business, right? Accounting, you know, macroeconomics, all of these kind of different areas to have kind of broaden your aspect. And then the more you dig in, the more it digs into the specific areas, which was great. So you get to learn about all the different things. And then within your HR emphasis, it's different classes too. So it's compensation, it's benefits. It's more of those areas, that are designed, legal, law, like all of those where some are required, some are you can choose on your own, where you can dig into the different areas as well. And so, yeah, I think that's a bigger part of the different areas of sometimes you learn about a lot of it. Like I'm not a huge fan of finance, but there was finance classes I had to take, and I'm happy I did because it helped me learn more about it and help me understand the different parts of business. Because in the end, when you work for, an organization and wherever you work, you all kind of work together anyway and have to have an understanding of some of those things. So it was truly helpful. And then learning more about it, maybe decide I'm not going to go into finance. I'm going to go into HR and learn more about those aspects and the different areas where there's, like we said, many different areas too of that.
Yeah. So when you graduated college, what did you do right after that? And then I guess kind of my question is leading, there's so many places to be an HR professional, right? Because every organization has to have that. So how did you know that like a school district, did it just kind of fall into your lap, or did you always know that you wanted to work for a school district? Can you just kind of talk about that, like after college, what your path was to get to where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was lucky enough to get an internship my senior year at an area education agency, AA. So it was like I knew a little bit about HR, right? But I had no idea what this actual corporation was. I'm a college kid looking for an internship, especially if it pays me great, just to learn more and get that experience that will help you as you graduate and try to find a job. So that was wonderful. It was such great experience learning the HR aspect in kind of the education field. And then I was super lucky enough that they had an opening as I graduated and they hired me in that role. So I have been very fortunate to have that because I know not everybody does. So I was able to take that HR generalist role where, I had a mentor that retired and was able to take that spot and go on from there. And so I've been in education because of that. I then moved to the Des Moines area from Cedar Falls, where then I went into a governmental job where I figured that was maybe, kind of the same because I understand kind of the public sector role. And then, this position, Waukee was adding an HR manager, and it would be a growth role for me, knowing I love education, and it was really a background that I really enjoyed. So it really worked out really well for me. I, again, been so fortunate in my path because a lot of it is right. There is so many places that you can get HR jobs. And a lot of it is, learning about that industry, right? And what they do, because that is a part of the learning too. Like, who am I hiring? What are they doing? All of those things. So a lot of that kind of controls your path too of, do I want to be in a organization? Do I know what that's about? Or are they going to give me some aspects to help me learn? And those are also interview questions you can ask too when you're in those spots, because you may not know. But I would say research those companies that have those openings to see if it's a good fit for you too, and to learn more.
Yeah, that's great. I do a lot of these interviews with professionals, and I will say that a lot of professionals say they kind of got their start and their foot in the door with an internship. So thank you for sharing that. And although you feel lucky, it's just such a great opportunity, those internships, to see too. And that's what I always tell students is, and you mentioned it, making sure it's a good fit for you also, right? Making sure that the industry that you go into is something that you enjoy as well, not just because of the pay or the job.
Right.
So when you hire your staff, and I know it kind of depends on where your industry falls, but for education, for the people who work in your department, what type of degrees do they need? Are you typically looking for a 4-year degree in human resources and then maybe some years of experience, or is there people that have 2-year degrees? Or can you kind of talk to the lengths of what type of degree you would need in order to get into a human resources position?
Yeah. So what I've, through my years of experience in meeting other individuals in HR, they all have different paths, which is awesome too. That's so great to hear. So a lot of our roles, we have administrative assistant who maybe not has as high qualifications, but the great thing about that is that they're learning in HR, so that if they want to move into one of our generalist roles, we have a 4-year degree in a bachelor's in kind of a business HR related field. However, also if you have years of experience that kind of equal up to that, we're open with that too, because the learning and experience is also super helpful in those as well. And then, the other different roles of talent acquisition, which is recruitment, looking at those roles of, again, a bachelor's kind of or experience in that role is going to be comparative. And, the higher up of an HR manager who helps with the personnel issues, that usually isn't a role that you can get right away. It does take more years of experience. With working with people in regards to that. And my role would be a master's degree, which, being here, I saw, and being in education is something we promote, right? Growth within your role. So I got a master's in leadership development. And again, position came open, I was able to get it, which was wonderful, and fit right in with that spot. And knowing, right, many years of experience are going to get you to that spot and working well and learning within those roles.
That's awesome. There's kind of like a continuum of where you can
Growth.
start and
Yep.
growth path. What would you say is your biggest win so far in your career?
Oh, biggest win. That's a great question. I don't know if I have like one particular thing that's a big win. Honestly, if you can find a big win every day, it makes it so much better, right? Like I feel a big win is, in my role, I have to have very hard conversations sometimes. And you practice, you see, how is this going to go? You don't know how the person's going to react. And so you work on it, you make sure, because we're dealing with individuals and feelings, and in those situations where I never want anything to end up in a bad way. That's part of the role, is to be empathetic and all those things. So having those conversations and having it come out on the right end, like they understand, it's a mutual respect, the growth, that is a big win for me, to be able to keep that relationships in regards to those hard conversations, because that's really what it's all about in regards to it. Is we're not trying to hurt anybody. We're trying to, help you and help the organization at the same time. And so when you can have those and be on the end, be on a good spot, and be able to get through and move forward, it is a huge win.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, because there's always people are like, oh, human resources, they get to work with all the employees. But then sometimes there's hard conversations too that go along with that too, right?
Right.
So that's great. What would you say is some important personality traits for someone looking to go into HR?
Yeah. So, like I said, we work with a lot of people. And so it's kind of being able to deal with all different personalities, right? Being able to be coachable and be able to train and be trained, right? So that's, I think a lot of it is the flexibility of, the different things that may happen in your in your day, and the different people that you interact with. So I think that's a part of it too, is being open. And my team right now has introverts and extroverts, right? And that's okay in regards to their roles. It's just, how do you work with those team members, and knowing your personality and their personalities, or the different ones, to be able to come out on the right side. So I think a lot of it, and honestly, in a lot of different roles, is that coachability. Do I come in thinking I know everything, or am I okay to be vulnerable sometimes and take it, and know that what I learn and grow is going to help me and help my organization? I think that's helpful in any role that you're in, to be able to move people forward, and to be able to hear things, be curious and reflective, and be able to move forward with that, and move forward in the right direction, and really not take things in a hard way. I think I always tell people it's never really personal. And so, a lot of things of, we hear some hard situations with like people being on leave, or, and can we be empathetic and give them the information they need and be able to support them? And so I think it's just kind of a broad, example of all that, of being able to take those in, and knowing when you need to be direct, but also do it in a respectful way, but also being collaborative, coaching, training, and having those personalities that can help in those areas.
Yeah, that's great. There was one thing you mentioned, and I just sparked another question. Do human resources policies, as far as like on the education side, and like certain requirements and that type of thing, do those change often in human resources? I mean, there would have to be, you guys have to know all the rules and guidelines and stuff to be, a functioning organization, right? And so, I mean, how much of that do you all do too as well? Or is there a certain person that makes sure you're in compliance with certain things? Is that like another whole section of human resources, I guess?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, because compliance is a part of our role too. So yeah, it depends on where you work, of what that looks like. If it's one person, if it's multiple. Yeah, so here it is my role, it's my HR manager role, to work together. And it is really interesting hearing it, because I'm like, those things, right? So we have employee handbooks, and we have a union. So we work with our union, and they have a different agreement. And then we have board policies, because we're governed by a board. So there's so many different kind of rules and regulations we have to follow. And yeah, we have to follow the Department of Ed, federal guidelines, state guidelines. We have a board of educational examiners that has specific rules. So there's so many things to, make sure that you know about and follow through. Legislature. So things that kind of
Change all the time.
keep on top of, to make sure. And so it honestly, it's like, it almost is a team effort, rather than having to be one individual to do it here, because there's so many different things that come at you that you have to update. And so really it depends on the timing of, when those things come. But a lot of it is we look at things yearly. We look at board policies every 3 years, unless something comes that says we need to look at them earlier. But handbook yearly, and any other like federal or state guidelines that come out that may change. We usually get notifications of those and be timely with those whenever those changes are too. So it's kind of a never ending change. Especially now, I think we are continually learning and changing in our world. I can't think of a time where it was kind of like nothing has changed. It's always kind of evolving, which is a great thing too.
Yeah. Well, and too, on the hiring end of stuff, making sure that your teachers are qualified and all that type of stuff. So you do that probably during the hiring process,
Yes.
but
Yes.
another thing to make sure that they're in compliance, to make sure
Yes.
that they have all the right credentials and that type of thing, too, as well. Can you describe one of your typical work days? I know you probably think that's a funny question because no day is the same, but can you just kind of walk us through what you kind of go through in one day?
Yeah, I kind of saw that question. I'm like, what day can I pick? Right. It's, you have your list of things to do, and then sometimes something gets thrown at you and you have to curve and go towards that. But luckily that doesn't happen quite as often. But a lot of it, it's my role. It's kind of like there's meetings every day regarding whatever it is. If it's process updates, right? If it's updates to new compliance, if it's issues in processes or procedures or with staff, it's, working with people in regards to that. A lot of, and supporting my staff. So I always say my staff does the bulk of the work, right? They bring people in, they're their resource. They're answering questions for them. When things come up, we work together as a team to figure them out and help support them if it's something that's not very clear. And then when they decide to leave, we work them through that process too. And so I always say they get to do the great, like everyday stuff and really communicate with people a lot of the times. And I'm there to support them and work through, because in HR, there's so many different things going on. So a lot of it really depends on where we're at in the year, because education is very cyclical. So when I get to talk to other organizations, they kind of all have their busy times, and ours just looks a little different because it's a lot of school year, but we still work in the summer. There's still a lot of work to do in the summer for a lot of us in our district roles. And so that is a very busy time too of looking at it. So I wasn't a great answer to the question, because it is just really depends on the timing and what's coming up and what's going on, and trying to be strategic in regards to what our goals are, and also fix the fires that are happening right now too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say probably summer is very busy for you with filling new teaching positions and that type of thing, with contracts ending and that type of stuff too.
Yes,
so
yes.
What do you find most enjoyable about your position?
Oh yeah, this is such an easy question, because it's the people, it's the staff. That's why I got into HR, is to help people. And honestly, in education and here in Waukee, we have wonderful, amazing people. I never saw myself as a teacher. I did maybe in third grade, like my daughter wants to be right now, which is great. But as I progressed, it wasn't in my future, but being able to help them and support who help our future, like that's our bottom line. That is the coolest thing for us. And knowing that we have individuals that are doing that every day, and I get to support them and help them. And knowing everyone else who has the support, organizations of our operations or business office, all of them and the work they do. It's just like, it's really, when you think of the collective group and how we work together to do all those things. And it's the people that make it happen, that I'm happy to be here and support them any day.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think are the toughest parts of your job?
Oh yeah, that's an easy one too, of of my job, the director role, gets to have those hard conversations. It could be coaching our hiring managers, our supervisors, on how to deal with hard conversations, with situations that happen when staff decide to do something that's not so smart, right? We get to be the ones to handle and help with those conversations. And the ones where it's not working out. So I got to have a really, really hard conversation with you on what the next steps can be. Those are never fun. They're like, and that's, I think what kind of the perception of HR is that that's what, oh shoot, you got to do that. But anyone who's in the role says, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to hire people, let them have the autonomy to do their job and do it right. But again, some people just make really poor choices, and then we just have to deal with them and work with them. And so that's not a great part of it. But like I said, sometimes we come out on the right side of we can fix that and move forward and grow. And sometimes we don't, and we get to deal with that.
Yeah. Yep. I had a feeling that was probably going to be
Yeah.
your answer. What are the seasons that are toughest in your job? You know, when you kind of talked about the cycle, and what is the really hard time or the busy time for you when it comes to that? Or just tough, right? Where you have just a lot of stuff going on. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think ours kind of comes near the end of the school year because we're in between years, right? So we're finishing out a school year and we're getting prepped to start a school year. So it's like you said, it's who's leaving, how are we filling those roles, and then who's coming in, and we're growing, so we always have new positions, and so it's getting those posted, hired, all of that, and knowing we're at the end of the school year, so there's a lot of things that are closing out because that's kind of like the end of our cycle, right? So making sure all those reports and evaluations and all of those things that are timely need to be done, while again thinking of next year, trying to prep and get prepared for the next school year, making sure that's all prepared and moving forward, because summer is super short. It comes very fast. Any teacher would say that too. Anyone who works just school year round would be like, that end and the beginning comes very quick though too. So that probably is the most chaotic of, we're dealing with current staff we have and new staff that are getting onboarded. So it's kind of working in two different worlds, prepping that. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. If you could start all over again, is there anything that you would change in your direction of your career path or not?
Again, I feel so fortunate in my role. I in my path and the people I've been able to work with and help me grow. I would not. I think my experience at UNI and the education I got there and the professors and people I got to work with was wonderful. And then the experiences I got to move on along my path was what I thought was best for me. So I thought of that too. I'm like, there's a lot of people that go through and decide to take another career path, and that's wonderful as well. We have many of those here too. And I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet of, I don't know what else I would do. So I may be there at some point, but right now I'm still doing okay. And I am very, very happy with how my transition and my path has brought me here.
Yes, yes. Well, I do want to be kind of respectful of your time. So I have maybe two more questions left. What preparation or advice would you recommend for young people that maybe want a career in this field? Anything that you would do earlier for them, or any advice you would give?
Yeah. So luckily our school districts are doing a great job of getting people, of students prepped of what is this? What is this? What is HR? What is this degree? And I love that. And I wish I would have had that too. And like I said, I've been very lucky. But I think it's, being curious, asking questions, get to know people. And it's okay to try, if you do an internship, or we have school to work here is what we call it. And they try, or you can take a job, right, and try out. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. That's not a failure. It's something you've learned, and then just try on the next one and see. So I think that's a lot of it is it's okay to be curious. It's okay to not know like what you want to do, but if it's something you want to look into and learn more, I've talked to a lot of young people about the different aspects, right? So a lot of what like we've talked about, the HR role is so expanded. There's so many different areas within it. And each industry is completely different, which is awesome too. So I think it's just, asking the question, being curious, learning more, and being coachable, and being able to, understand of, how we all can get better. Even me, there's no higher role to go in HR here, but that doesn't mean that I'm not growing every day.
Absolutely. That's great advice. And then just since you work, for a school district and all of that, and you're in human resources, what are you seeing in young, I guess, teachers that are coming in and fulfilling positions for you? What are some like things that you're seeing with them, good or bad, I suppose, but for students that are younger, when they're looking at their career development and that type of thing, and interviewing and professional skills is very nerve-wracking for them, right? Because it's something new, and it's just kind of a different world. What are you seeing in younger educators, that's really great that you're seeing? I guess not that the older ones are bad, but just the more younger ones, or just some things that maybe they could work on too.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, their innovative problem solving, right? They have learned some things that a lot of us haven't got to learn and still are not sure about. So how can we, grasp that, and the different things that they bring, or the different communication styles, right? And that's okay too. Kind of thinking outside of the box versus this is how we need to do it, or this is how we've always done it. I think those, and then there's different personalities, right? We talk about the different generations in the workforce, and then how do I work with them? So some, they come in of like, this is how I do it, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to be. And if that's how you want to be, that's okay, but that doesn't work in every organization, right? And maybe you have to keep going on until you find one that fits. Or there's other ones that we talked about are coachable, or training of like, I understand that, or reflective, and saying, this may not be the right time, but this, will work, and we appreciate that. And this is a better way to do it. So I think that's a lot of it too. Other things they have brought, and a lot of it, I think, is when you're interviewing for jobs, be who you are. Don't be someone that you think they want to be who you are. And again, if they don't want you are, that's okay. You will find an organization that wants you for who you are. Or there's different times. So like when we're hiring and they're like, oh, I interviewed, I haven't got a job yet. Well, I mean, luckily for us, we have many openings, and we have openings a lot, where I'm like, this may not be your last chance. So don't burn a bridge. Thank you, try getting feedback, asking for it, all completely appropriate and good things to do. Not even for younger generations, for ones that are older too, of thinking, well, I've done this for how long, I've got this. Well, sometimes it's different when younger generations saying like, right, I may not have the experience, but here's what I can bring to you and your team. That's a lot of times what we look for too. And a lot of it depends on the other people in the role, the team, the position, so many different things. So a lot of times when people aren't hired, it's like, it may just not be the right time. It may not be there's so many different things. So I would never say, never get down, but always be, continue to work on yourselves, which I think a lot of the generations want to do, right? They want to learn and grow and keep, learning more as our world is doing that. And that is probably the greatest thing about it, is that they can help us keep up with the fast world.
Yes, absolutely. No, I 100% agree. They bring a lot too, but yeah, the professional skills piece isn't really something you can teach. They just have to go through it, right? So so that is hard. But I want to be respectful of your time, Roxy, because I know you're so busy. So thank you again for your time today. We truly appreciate it, and learning a little bit more about human resources and all the wonderful different components to it too as well.
Yes, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. And anyone, feel free to reach out if there's additional questions, and I'd be willing to chat with you.
That sounds great. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thanks. Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.